Hi there, Cosmo family. My name is Yesleal. The moon has entered in Taurus. Today is November 4th. Tomorrow we have the full moon in Taurus. And this is the phase to connect with the body, to descend more to earth, to regulate the rhythms in which we need to move forward. Yesterday I was talking about this both if this is implying letting go of the resistance to move as the anxiety for what is coming. It is about inhabiting what is with presence. But today I wanted to talk about Mars because this is the planet which function in our natal chart is taking direction, open paths, acting. So today entered in Sagittarius until December 15th, and it is making this opposition with Uranus retrograde in Gemini. Mars in Sagittarius is the action that is moved with a purpose, through a purpose that is connected with an inner truth. And this is important because we could have different purposes along the way, and discovering that there are things that are leading us to express the expansive nature of the soul, and other things that are going to generate the sensation of limitation and lack of freedom. And we have to understand this perspective of inner truth because that recognition of what has a genuine purpose for us, it is related to the function of the soul in this plane. What I mean, it is that a person can make this master degree in physics, and seeing this from the outside, this could be perceived as an expansion of the person because of the knowledge that is acquiring, because of the things that can contribute to society. But if that thing is not related with the function of the soul, the person cannot feel enthusiasm and even could feel the lack of sense in his or her life, because that is indicating that there are areas of his or her experience that are not aligned with what the person came here to do. And even though integrating a knowledge could mean intellectual expansion, that is not guaranteeing the inner growing. I mean, cultivating mental development is important, but if that is not being connected to the sense of oneself, if that doesn't have a spiritual motivation, we could fall in this accumulation of concepts, ideas, and that turning them into this zone of security for the ego, but that is not actually feeding the soul. The mind could make identity in its intellectuality to be validated or recognized by others. So the mastery that we could develop in here should include actually to experiment. So I am talking about putting the focus in everything that we do in our lives, in every area, and recognizing if the knowledges and the things that we are doing are actually motivating us to explore that path that we are choosing and to grow. Other person could feel totally connected to cook, putting this example more related to Taurus in context of this lunation, and developing a lot in that area and seeking forms of enrichment of his or her art, and beyond the challenges that the person could go through, having the feeling that the path is expanding her or his, and that is acquiring valuable experiences. So you can turn backwards the examples if you want to, because the important thing it is identify what has sense for oneself, and that sense for certain people could could come with a lot of clarity even if they are very young, because the development of the soul for those people was linked with that. And for others it is a path that implies experimenting and knowing what is for oneself and what is not. And from the things that are not, we could even acquire tools for what is, for what does align with that sense. So we also have to be willing to make decisions and to let go and to experiment other things when the soul is indicating. And for that reason, every path is unique, and we cannot judge from our beliefs or limited perceptions what other person have to experiment. Also could happen that oneself could be the person that is that we are judging ourselves, because the path perhaps it is not being adjusted to what other people are doing, or to the culture in which we have incarnated. And it is very common that in order to grow, the soul is incarnating in spaces with certain cultural conditionings, social, ideological ones. And some of those things could be incorporated, part of that education could serve later to develop ourselves and to connect with our potential. But there are many other things that we will have to transcend, and that could be a challenge because we have to detach from something that was part of our identity until that moment, and letting go of is having to open ourselves to a new revelation of who we are, and that what we believed about ourselves was truly only a shell, a layer of the identity. It is a process that can enable a lot of freedom, but at the moment that we are going through it could be very uncomfortable, and there is a lot of uncertainty, and one can feel that we are moving forward to an unexplored land. I don't know if I'm inventing that word, but in some way this is something that occurs many times in our lives, in more subtle ways. So this opposition between Mars and Uranus retrograde in Gemini in context of the full moon in Taurus could imply changes, circumstances that for some people they could perceive them as chaos or crisis, to open ourselves to a new revelation of our inner truth and what for us has truly purpose in this experience, and to recognize the matter not as a goal. And it is not it is not enough. It is not enough motivation to sustain oneself in a direction, not because it is not an important means to inhabit this plane, but the soul didn't came here in function of the matter. The soul came here, operates in the matter in function of the revelation of light. So we have the invitation to use it, united to that higher sense that each one of us came here to experiment. And as I was saying yesterday, this requires to give form to projects in here. It is not about denying the matter and waiting for things to happen from a fantasy, but it is important that these projects have the proposal of an exploration of self-knowledge, of a new understanding of reality while we are moving forward, and that they can allow us to grow and to feel abundant while we transit whatever thing we are transiting beyond results. So for other people, perhaps this is not about changing their directions right now, but it is about changing their perceptions of the path that they are already transiting, because the perception is preventing them from seeing other possibilities, or is making this closing of being able to extract the learning of what they are transiting because of the excess of focus in the materialization of a result. This means these mental barriers that are limiting the freedom of the soul. When the plenitude that we are seeking in our path many times, this is something that we can enable at the present moment. It is just that many times we need to go through many, many things to recognize that being happy, it is something that we are cultivating, and that requires to choose spaces, directions, and circumstances that are responding to this sense of the soul. And also, stop associating plenitude with this emotional, with a specific emotional state. It is more linked with the capacity of experimenting different states and trusting in that what is happening is responding to these higher purposes. So at last, for other people, this could be linked with they are already connecting with something that they want to explore, but perhaps in order to move forward to those things, they have to break with a belief, with something that they thought they had to do, or they had to be, and to encourage themselves to assume these paths that can allow them to be in a more authentic way. Thank you, everyone. See you in the next video.